Hi, I'm Bill Mallon, and I'm here with Joe Kern, who's a PGA professional. And we're here to talk to you about something that both of us have really become very passionate about over the past year or so. We've been on a journey and putting, fallen in love with putting. And so we're going to talk to you about precision putting and particularly about the Grail, which has changed my life, certainly as a golfer, and changed my joy of playing golf. And Joe?
The Grail is it's a unique tool to use to better your putting. It does many things that are unexpected, but it will change the way that you look at rolling the ball. And we're excited to be able to share that with you.
This it's funny because this started. I mean, and Joe and I have played golf together for coming up on probably 20. It'll be 24 years. I've been
Yep.
in Vero Beach, and we've been playing golf together pretty much that entire time. And I play amateur golf. I played golf since I was 5 years old. My dad got me on the golf course when I was very little, and I've enjoyed golf my whole life. One of the things I've always struggled with has been putting. I've been a very good ball striker, and putting has always been the thing that's held me back from achieving more in golf. And I've had a good amateur career. I've played in three U.S. GA events, three U.S. mid-ams, and I've been in six playoffs for USGA events. So I've been on the cusp of a lot of things, but I've never been able to kind of get over the hump or where I felt like I should be because of my putting. And I think
It's,
that's
yeah, what I found that the Grail changed was my practice habits on putting. It's a lot more fun to go practice hitting good putts than going out there and practicing just trying to make a putt. And the Grail is it's fun to use. On any putt, uphill, downhill, side hill. It just teaches you a stroke that will surprise you.
yeah. It's been interesting for me because I was always a practice person. I would go out and hit balls. I love hitting golf balls. And I would practice putting, but I could never get better at it. I mean, it didn't matter how many hours I spent putting. If you're practicing the wrong thing, you're never going to get better. And I think my frustration kind of reached a boiling point a couple of years ago, probably a year and a half ago. I had a great summer of golf. I was striking the ball as well as I could ever strike it, having really good tournament rounds where I was shooting 64, 65, 67, and missing, putts that I should be making. So great rounds of golf, striking the ball, hitting it close, and just I'd have occasional round where I would get hot and I'd make putts, but consistently I could never quite find something. I'd hit a putt where I thought it was a good putt, it'd go 6 feet by the hole, or I'd hit a putt I thought was a good putt and it'd be 4 feet short of the hole, and I could never understand what was going on until now. Now I understand it, and I watch people, and it's just been interesting to see the change. And again, about a year and a half ago, I finally reached a point. I said, I got to get some help. Um, and
That was about the time that you introduced me to Stan Moore,
yeah,
and we were taught the proper parameters of the stroke.
right.
And as we were practicing and trying to get these parameters better, we were seeing some slight changes with our stroke. But when I would go play, my old stroke would still show up. And then you decide to build a device, and that first prototype was it was a complete game changer.
Mm-hmm.
When I first putted with it, I recognized that you can hit a putt solid, and I learned that I have not been hitting putts solid.
It's such a different feel. So I guess that was about a year and a half ago. I got introduced to Stan Moore. I went
Yeah.
down to see him. I had my first lesson, and everything I had ever thought I knew about putting, which you could put in a thimble,
Yeah.
everything I ever thought I
Was
knew
the
about
opposite.
putting was completely opposite and upside down. And it's so interesting to see where I was versus where I am now, and the knowledge. So I have this first lesson with Stan, and you and I mean, we've talked about it. I literally got in my car after an hour, and I drove up. It was 2 hours away. I drove up to Vero Beach. I went to the golf course, and I put two tees in the ground, literally right in front of my ball, and I hit putts for 2 hours, just slamming into that tee, trying to get this stopping, because I took a stroke. My old stroke was a very slow, short backstroke and a long follow through. I thought you're supposed to accelerate through the ball. And Stan, immediately told me, no, did you accelerate or decelerate at the ball? And I was like, accelerate? No, you don't. But I was so wrong in everything that I was doing. So, we started with that, but I mean, I didn't walk off my putts to know the distance. And now I equate that when I tell people, I ask people, everybody uses a rangefinder. How many people actually measure their length of their putts? Nobody.
Yeah.
If you're in a room of 30 people, you say, how many people actually measure the length of their putt? 1 out of 30 maybe. So we don't give ourselves the knowledge or the chance to make good putts.
Yeah, we go. I find that a lot of golfers, when they're out on the golf course putting, they believe that they're a great putter.
Yeah.
They believe that they're going to make everything. The unfortunate part of that is that when they're out there playing, they didn't realize that they rolled 4 putts 6 feet by the cup, and there's their 3 putts.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think that that's a bad stroke. They just think they hit the putt in some way, and that's what that's what the Grail changed for me, is the distance control. It's not always perfect, but I have no fears of putting.
Yeah, well, that part's been eliminated, and having an understanding. So, and the Grail, for those of you who don't know, is it's a device that I kind of put together based on, when I was getting the lessons, and someone would say to me, or Stan or anybody, to take the putter back to here and put a quarter on the ground or tee in the ground, and take your putter up to here, and don't take it past this. But I had a hard time learning that way, and I was very much, it just didn't get me in a place of comfort or quiet. So I would take my putter back to this, but I was so focused on taking my putter back to this quarter, it just wasn't fun.
Yeah. Well, and the knowledge wasn't there yet. We didn't have the internal knowledge, because our old stroke is just pressing.
Yeah.
And that brought me to, when we started doing this, that brought me to knowing a person that did the study on a tour rhythm stroke, how far a putter should go back to roll at a certain distance.
Yeah.
And that brought us to Tucker's table.
Right.
And with Jerry, when he told me about putter backswing length, and how to roll the ball. If you take the putter back 9 inches, it'll roll 9 feet on a green that's rolling at 9.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the bells started going off, like, oh. And then you watch a video of Luke Donald talking on the side of a putting green to a buddy of his, I guess. And the guy asked him a question, how do you putt? And he says, well, I just take my putter back longer for certain distance putts.
Yeah.
Something in that respect. And
then you start looking at the history of it. So Crenshaw, right?
Why was that not being taught all of this time?
Mm-hmm.
I taught how to release a putter.
Yeah.
How to let it go, and understanding how energy works now in the putting stroke. Change that, and to break 35 years of habits. That's more of the challenge than anything.
It's hard.
So I think for your average player, there's a fear there. They don't like to change. One, they're not going to spend the time that that would help them get better in a much faster pace. They'll a lot of people will go out their practices before their round of golf, which is really interesting, because if you practice with the Grail for 5 minutes, the thoughts about how your putting stroke should work changes that quick.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we haven't seen anybody fail on it yet, which is the amazing part. I mean, we went from prototype, which I had built, started playing around with it, and then learning these proper stroke metrics, and taking it back further, and being free to take it back, and faster and longer back, because there's that wanting to take it back like this, and getting that freedom to let it go. And when you give up that control, you gain control. It's just like anything in the long stroke. You give up control in golf to gain control. And it's letting yourself do that. But, practicing with that Grail, it took a little while to get it to the golf course. Again, I was breaking so many years of habits, but it started to happen on the golf course for me in tournaments under what you consider pressure situations. I started making those putts and starting to expect it. And, it's been about a year and a half since my very first lesson in learning how to basically start to let the putter drop on the ball, controlling your distance through your backstroke. And now it's a very natural thing for me. It's become very natural. And what we see is when we start people on it, it's amazing. When you put someone on it, they're very hesitant initially, and they go through this same process. They wrap the front rail a couple times, and then they start getting it. And within 15 minutes, someone's rolling the ball like they've never rolled the ball in their life. It doesn't matter if they're 30 handicappers or professionals.
When you start rolling the ball on the Grail, there's a a sense that this is correct. It's a big sense. Wow, look at this. This is correct. But that doesn't, you don't relate that to how to do it right away. You just know that this thing is making me strike the ball.
Mm-hmm.
This Grail is making me, this device is making me strike the ball in a way that I've never struck the ball before. But the answer, I think all the answers are whoever the best is in the business is probably doing a lot of good things. So when you look at your top 5, you look at the top 20 putters on the PGA Tour, and a lot of players don't understand that little bit of acceleration that can happen, and how that changes the roll of the ball. But if you watch them on the tour, their putters, there's a recoil into their putters. And why?
Mm-hmm.
That means the energy is no longer going forward. It stops at the golf ball.
Yeah.
That's a hard one.
Because
that's a tough one to get. That's a tough one to get into your noggin, because everything we've done in golf has been swing through the ball,
right,
finish through the ball, and the energy only has to go to the ball.
And when I'm on the green now and I watch somebody, I'm playing in a match or playing, and I watch somebody go like this and like that, I said they've got no chance.
Yeah,
they may beat me that day.
They're going to hit some funny putts.
They may beat me that day. They may have the feel for that day, like I used to. I had feel for a certain day, and I'd make all kinds of putts, and then the next day it was completely gone. I don't have that anymore. It's consistent. I may not make every putt, but boy, I roll every putt. And when I miss them now, it's because I misread the putt. And, I didn't have an understanding of uphill, downhill, how much slope would impact. And, learning and aim point, I learned aim point as well. And you and I both talked about it. And I think aim point's been a great thing to learn. But I think there's a lot of holes in aim point. And you and I have done the due diligence on it to see on a putting green using aim point versus what we figured out, which we call the Grail code. And it's very accurate. I told you about my round today. I birdied 4 holes in a row, a couple of 25 footers that were downhill with big breaks to them. And I just walked it off and calculated the slope and knew, based on the Grail code, I knew that 25-foot putt was putting 16 feet, and I knocked it right in the hole. And it rolled right over the front of the cup on a putt that I would normally, you can knock that 10, 12 feet by the hole with just breathing on it. And so
a lot of trust starts beginning to develop as soon as you get on the ground.
Yeah, the fear of putting is gone for me now.
Yeah, it's more fun than fearful.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm gonna calculate
let me see
this
if
putt.
I can hit this putt 45 feet.
Yeah,
and the Grail. When you practice with the Grail and practicing with the Grail, there's many different ways to practice, as you'll see in some of the videos that we have online. But when you practice with it, you intuitively know that you are getting better.
Mm-hmm.
I find that I hit more putts than I've ever hit in my life on the green, because there's no fear. Let's see what happens.
And it's fun. It's fun. We had a 13-year-old girl on the Grail make 53 putts in a row from 10 feet. Who does that? I was coaching somebody, and from 8 feet he made over 70 putts in a row. And those are just extraordinary numbers, and we see it routinely. You were working with somebody. What do you make? 23 out of 24 from 18 feet. Who does that? Nobody does that, and it's fun because
and the Grail. I think the beauty about the Grail, one of the many things that the Grail will help you get better at. There's so many hidden features to what it does to how you look at it, by squaring the putter face up. With our new eyeliner, having your eyes over the ball, if that's where you like to have your eyes.
Yeah, no more need for mirrors and all these
interference
different
with the stroke. The only interference with the stroke is on the follow through, and there's no other device that talks about the follow through. All of the devices always try to get you taking your putter back in a
swing
certain
path,
way.
swing path, all that stuff.
Putter face is square.
None of that matters.
Yeah.
All that stuff goes out the window. All you do is get in the Grail.
I've not thought about my swing path. The thing that I like to practice, what I like to do the most on there, is my stroke parameters.
Yeah.
How long can I take this putter back?
Yep.
Can I take this putter back 20 inches, 15 inches, 10 inches? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start seeing the results. You start seeing what the golf ball does, and that becomes what you do.
The dropping of the hammer, which we all know. You and I know we're on the green and you hear that click.
Yep.
That perfect
Very
click,
simple click.
That ball is going in the hole. And I know I went to a putting lab with my old stroke, and I was, my ball was hopping, skidding, bouncing, and I had this short backstroke and long forward stroke, which I have that video, which I hate to show to anybody, but I will show. And I look at that and I think, oh my goodness, where have I come? And I went from that to the next. After I started with the stroke, where I started controlling my distance with a backstroke, I went back to that lab, and my ball had overspin, and all the negative characteristics on my ball were gone. And then, fast forward another 6-8 months, I went down and worked with a pro on the Quintic. He put me on the Quintic, the
Putting,
device, the
yep.
Quintic putting analyzer, and I had plus 30 overspin with my ball. It was rolling, just hugging the ground, and that's what I see. My ball, the consistency of my distance control, and one of the
The
guys,
ball rolls almost immediately off the putter.
yeah, it hugs the ground. And when you first start doing it, you realize you think you hit the putt short because the ball rolls 1 or 2 feet longer. When you strike a ball properly, the ball just rolls out in a consistent manner, and it's just fun. It's been so interesting.
So the change, the I think what I enjoy the most about it is putting different levels of golfers on the Grail, from higher handicaps to lower handicaps, and the change is immediate. It's not, oh, come back tomorrow and let's try this again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, work on this for a couple of weeks and we'll see you back here. This is what I want you to practice. It's immediate.
Yeah.
It's crazy immediate. And if I look at my fellow golf instructors. If you are somewhat interested in getting better at putting, there's only one device. I believe there's only one device
Mm-hmm.
for you.
Yeah.
As many as I've tried, we have a pile in your warehouse.
Well, I bought everything you could possibly
that
try to get better.
they may work in some way, but the Grail covers so many bases, mentally, physically, how the ball. Again, I believe what changed the most in my mind was how I struck the ball.
Mm-hmm.
The strike of the golf ball was completely different. And then watching now, instead of watching golf and being in awe of where these PGA Tour players are hitting it, watch what their putting strokes look like.
Yeah.
And recognize what are they doing? They're not doing anything spectacular. They're just striking the ball perfectly on the putting green.
Mm-hmm. And Cameron Smith had a video out where he talked about deceleration. So it's starting to get out there. And then one of the best coaches, or one of the most well-known coaches in the world, came out and said, don't decelerate on your short putts. Let me help you try not to decelerate on your short putts. I saw that. I actually sent it to Skip Kendall.
Yeah.
And Skip, but Skip and I played in the Senior Open, the State Senior Open in the spring. And we played 2 rounds together, and we started talking about putting, and he noted the way I was putting. And I was sort of early in my journey at that point, but he still noted that I was taking a long backstroke and I was decelerating at the ball and rolling the ball nicely. And so we started talking about it, and we realized we had some common thoughts, and we had been working on some of the same things. And that was one of the things he was teaching. So we had the prototype at the Florida Senior Open. We brought it out on the grass and said, Skip, would you like to see this? And as soon as he got on, he said, this is exactly what I try to teach all my students. And it just immediately happens. You don't have to spend 3 weeks trying to figure out why they can't get it. And you just put them in it and you let them go, and there it is. And then it's not like you're done coaching either. I mean, I think maybe there's some fear out there that, oh my God, the Grail's going to replace my need to be a coach. No, but you're going to add, you're going to make you a better coach.
You're going to make you a better putting instructor.
And your students are going to get better and want to come back for more knowledge, because there's so many layers, right? Look, we keep getting better. We keep figuring out more things. We figured out the Grail code, which now we can read greens in a way that is, and we're going to share that because it's so much fun to watch people get better. And I love watching people get better at putting. It just gives me great joy. I think I enjoy that more than making a putt myself.
The amusing thing when I'm instructing is when you have a player, you can almost see it before they even hit the putt. They've been working on taking the putter straight back for probably their entire golfing life. And what happens inevitably, instead of taking it straight back, they start taking it back across the line. The Grail remedies that immediately.
Yeah.
Both ways. If taking it too far inside is an issue, I don't care if you do that or not. But the Grail takes all that concern away, and it lines you up with your eyes to where if you're crossing your paths, you're doing some funny things, and you don't even think about fixing that.
It does fixes itself.
You just keep putting.
It
You just
fixes
keep
itself.
trying to hit the numbers.
And as soon as someone hits that ball and strikes it properly with the right, the putter is so square at impact, the ball just rolls. It just rolls straight.
Yeah.
It's so, you know, if I miss a putt now, I misread it. That's it. I mean, I'm hitting the ball with an intention of where it's going, in a way that's just never happened before. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch it. And I think, you know, the other part that, you know, we're now the next level is the timing and understanding the metrics of putting, but also the timing. You know, when you look at the parameters of putting and we start looking at the metronome speed, and people, you know, some people putt with a metronome, some people don't. Most people who putt with a metronome don't even know what they're doing with the metronome. What are they trying to accomplish? What is their true stroke duration? And I think one of the things that to me, the most important thing out of all the metrics that we measure is stroke duration. If you can get consistent stroke duration from a 3-footer to a 30-footer to a 60-footer,
the only thing that'll change is the
length of the backstroke. If you get consistent, and for a lot of our listeners, stroke duration might as well be speaking some kind of Chinese or something to me. But stroke duration is the time it takes from you to take your putter back from the ball and come back and hit it. That's the length. That's the stroke duration. And I would have guessed, if someone would have said, well, what's your stroke duration on a short putt versus a long putt? Is it different? I'd say, oh, of course it is. It's got to be longer on a long putt and shorter on a shorter putt. But the actual answer to that is it's exactly the same. And the best putters in the world have a stroke duration that is consistent. Mine happens to be 0.87, and that means it's a 69 metronome. So when I practice putting now, I putt with a metronome at 69. I put my earbuds on. When I warm up at a tournament, I go out on the green. When I warm up for anything, I have the earbuds in and I am at 69. And that means when I take my putter back, tick, tick. I don't hit the ball until that second tick. And for me, with short putts, which has always been, you know, an issue where I get a little quick and try to watch it go in the hole, that tick, 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 tick. And realizing that a 3-foot putt has the same stroke duration as a 20-foot putt and a 40-foot putt. That was hard for me to get. But when you start practicing and you have your stroke duration being consistent, you start to see that consistent ball strike and this consistent roll at any distance. That timing is so critical.
Yeah, as that gets better, you know, especially if you like to play in tournaments. For any players that like to travel playing in tournaments, in Florida, we play a lot of these tournaments in the summertime. There's a lot of hotel stays, and I can go to a tournament, get done playing, and after dinner at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, you're laying in a hotel room bed.
Yeah.
Now we have a putting mat, a 13-foot putting mat, and the Grail. So instead of laying in your bed from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock or whenever you go to sleep, you putt.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, the TV in my hotel room usually never goes on because of that. I'm more interested in getting better at my putting, and we've somehow come up with a way that you can practice this almost anywhere.
Yeah, and that's been a great thing too. You know, playing the tournament circuit last summer, taking my putting mat, taking my mini Grail, and boom, my putter goes in the bag, a couple golf balls, a mini Grail, and I'm up in my hotel room, and there it is. I've got my own putting studio set up, and you know that's a great thing. Even in the morning, sometimes if you know I've got an early tee off time, and I'm worried about getting out to the course, I'm going to warm up in my hotel room before I even walk out the door and hit some putts and get my stroke where it feels good, and just get you that warm up. It's really awesome to be able to do that. And it's fun watching, you know, when you get pros on it, and we've got now four guys on the Champions Tour who are using the Grail, and a lot of teaching pros using it, and of course Natalia Guseva, who won the Ladies European Tour qualifier, using the Grail to practice.
Qualified for the LPGA Tour.
Qualified for the LPGA Tour, and her putting is phenomenal, and she's got that stroke that's just.
But it allows you to create a fluid putting stroke.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and a fluid putting stroke is a big part of putting.
You know, there was kind of a watershed moment for me last year, and I was playing with my 4-ball partner Bobby Bird. We play a lot of tournaments together through the years, and I'm out there and I'm just kind of not quite getting what I'm supposed to do. And Bobby just looked at me and said, "Just putt like you're in the Grail," and it was like a light bulb went off. And as soon as that happened, I just stopped being bothered by any other thoughts other than I know how far I have to take this putter back for this particular length putt, and it's a straight putt because I've calculated, even though it breaks 2 feet to the right, where I'm hitting it is actually a straight putt. And all of a sudden, it just from there, it
Starts
just took
fraying out.
off for me. And it's
Yeah.
just been I never look back from that. When I'm sitting over a putt now and it's whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's for the club championship or it's to qualify for a US Mid-Am, that putt has the same thought process for me. It's just putt like I'm in the Grail, because I know if I do it statistically, I'm going to make that putt on a very high percent.
Yeah.
I mean, what do we look at the percentage of PGA guys
Yeah.
at 10 feet? What is it, 41% or 42%? So you're going to hit great putts at 10 feet, and if you hit perfect putts, 42% of them are going to go in. But I feel like my stats are going to be as good as anybody in the country on putting. I don't feel like, I'm not going to hit the ball. I'm not going to hit the ball like Rory. I can't hit it 350 yards. But when I get on the green, there's no reason on the green you cannot be the equivalent of the best player in the world.
Yep. That's what it does for you.
Well, look what it did for you. U.S.
Yeah.
Senior Open last year.
That was good.
Complete game changer for you. I mean, you've had your own little quirks with putting through the years. You get hot, you shoot 62.
Yeah.
And then you have these, these rounds where you're just, your miss was always that little quirky left miss,
Whatever it was.
And it's just that short stroking that we all do.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
But all those things are gone now.
So yeah, you and I have probably benefited the most from the Grail, and now that we have many of them out there, a lot of people are going to start putting much better than they ever have.
Yeah,
and it's fun. I think it's fun to watch, almost as fun as it is when we're done with this podcast, as me beating you on the putting green behind us.
Yeah. You know what? My prediction is within 2 years, no one will be accelerating or teaching acceleration with putting. No one.
Yeah, the science is there,
and we've got it. We've got the numbers, and I mean, like I said, when I watch people now on the putting green, and
it's either hit or miss. You're like, yep, nope.
Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting to watch the strokes when you watch Cantley and Morikawa and Homa.
And even their strokes. Even their strokes are never perfect. And if you watch them, as we're watching people with the Grail, you can see the times that they let that putter release a little bit. The little 10-footer that misses an inch left, you can almost see that there's just a little bit of effort after they strike the ball. Even the best players in the world.
Yeah, of course. I tell you, the other interesting part is there are natural decelerators that are there. There's some guys, and when we were looking, we're working with people, we see, that one, maybe it's 1 out of 30.
Yeah.
But they already have that naturally built in. They don't know it. They don't know what they're doing, and they don't have the control because they don't understand what they're supposed to do on the backstroke. But they do take a longer backstroke and a shorter follow through. They just don't know. They don't have control over it. So even if you are a decelerator, you can get better.
Yeah, and it comes down to this. And people can do a self-diagnosis of their putting stroke really quickly. If they're going out to play a round of golf and they have a 10-foot putt, and then they have a 20-foot putt on the next hole, I'm going to be willing to bet that 90% of golfers, that putter goes back the exact same distance for those two putts.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the change takes place. And if you do that, the question I would have is, somebody's telling me, hey, you can get better with this, is, wow, why am I only taking the putter back the same distance on every putt? What that means, when you take the putter back the same distance on every stroke, that means that you have to have perfect touch on how much energy you're going to be putting into each putt. Oh, this one's only 5 feet, I'm going to hit it easier. This one's 20 feet. Oh, I got to hit this one harder. The best players in the world do not change their rhythm on their golf swing, on their putting stroke. Their rhythm stays the same. So when players are changing their rhythm on, if it's a 2-foot putt or a 20-foot putt, and they're, I'm hitting this one harder, I'm hitting this one easier, that can be hit or miss out on the golf course. That's where the big rounds come in.
Their stroke duration's completely kaflooey. Their backstroke to front stroke ratio is going to be off and different every time.
Yep.
Their acceleration of their putter or deceleration, their acceleration is going to change on every putt. And so, what we want to do is get down to the point where the only parameters that change are a backstroke length, and the stroke speed will change as a direct relation to the backstroke length, because it has to. You're going to have a faster you're going to have a faster stroke speed if your swing duration is the same on a 50-foot putt or a 5-foot putt. But you want 3 numbers to stay exactly the same on every putt. Your backstroke to front stroke ratio, which should be 1.5, right around 1.5. Your deceleration or negative acceleration, however you want to call it. You can parse that. Some people get pretty particular about it, but we call it deceleration, but you can call it negative acceleration. And that number, ideally, I mean, it should be about -4.5 is the perfect putt. For us, we think that's the perfect putt. But you want to be in deceleration. You want to have a backstroke to front stroke ratio about 1.5, and you want your stroke duration to be whatever your stroke duration is. Yours and mine are very similar. What your metronome 70?
Yes.
So I'm 69. Most people are going to be somewhere between 63 and 75, 62 and 75.
When you talk about the 1.5 on
the ratio, backstroke to front stroke ratio.
The front stroke to backstroke ratio. So what that means is if I have a 20-foot putt, my putter is going to go 20 inches back and swing 10 inches through.
But that's not the ratio that's not the ratio in terms of it's the speed, the amount of time on your backstroke. The ratio, now when we talk about parameters, that's a different parameter. When you're measuring the backstroke to front stroke ratio, like Blast Golf does,
Right.
It's 2-to-1 ratio and all those things. That's more of the timing than it is the actual length. When we talk about timing, we do talk about a 2-to-1 backstroke to front stroke as maybe a 10-to-5 ratio or a 10-to-7. I think Cantley, we sort of think is more like 10-to-3. So if he takes his putter back 10 inches, for every 10 inches back, he's taking it 3 inches forward, right? So if you take it back 20 for a 20-foot putt, you're going to be 6 inches potentially follow through. And there is some physics to that that's ideal in terms of ball roll, because if you try to stunt it, if you take it back 40 inches and you stunt it at 2, there is what people like to call pop. But you are sort of forcibly stopping as opposed to letting your putter just drop back to the ball. And what you see is as we get better, there is no forcible stopping. The putter just goes back like this, and when it swings forward, it's like letting the air out of a balloon. The putter just swings, and once that energy goes to the ball, the putter is just kind of done. It hits, and then the putter's sort of done, and the ball just takes off here, as opposed to I'm going here and I'm going to ram through like this, and all of a sudden you've got that ball essentially staying on the face of the putter longer, because it's like sweeping through, like you're sweeping through with the putter, you're hitting through, and that ball's not necessarily, when you're going like this and the ball goes boom and the putter stops, that ball goes like this. When you're going through like this, that ball is sort of sitting on the putter a little longer, and that's where that side spin and that, you start to impart some kind of torque on that face. And I think those are the issues now. And again, when it comes to putters as well, obviously there are certain putters that are much more balanced. You and I have gone through, different durations. Again, looking at putters, I putted with an Odyssey 2 ball forever, and I have no idea, was that putter face balanced at all? I have no idea. Was the face torquing? Was I trying to contort it? I mean, I don't think about any of those anymore, but went through the lie angle balance putters, which I really was intrigued by that. I've tried those. I've got several of those. I like those. I did, when I went to the putting lab, get looked at, and my numbers were better with Makefield putters. And so I have gone to my Makefield. I love Makefield putters. They're heavy, and you can adjust the weight in them. But the feel of a heavy putter, which I never would have liked before, the way that I putt now, it's conducive to having a heavy putter, because you just take it back here and you just let it drop. And the putter just swings down to the ball and it stops, and the ball just takes off.
Yeah, it's that's been a game changer as well. Having a right putter in your hand.
The correct putters.
I see more people with a putter in their hand that is just cannot produce a square setup position, for one, but the weight of the putter is so off balance during the stroke that there's no.
And that's, to me, there's another frontier, right? Everybody is so into, you look at what club fitting is done. I mean, when I was a kid, you just grab some clubs, you didn't measure this, measure that, what shaft, and we know how important that is to how you play, right? Everybody's getting fit. If you're a high level player, you're getting fit, and you know exactly what your spin is, and this shaft makes a difference. Maybe your spin with your driver is 3,500 with this shaft and it's 2,400 with this one. And we know that now. You can't tell just by hitting it and feeling it. So you got a putter on the green you think feels good. What's actually happening with that ball? You have no idea, right? And that's where there's so much lacking. I mean, to me, everybody spent so much time on the long shots and understanding this and measuring, and everybody's got a rangefinder, and yet we get to the green and it's just like, oh, let me just figure it out. Like, I don't know how long that putt is. I don't know what the break is. I'm just going to hit it. I think I should hit it there with whatever. And I think that's where there is so much room to improve. And the thing is, how many strokes? I mean, half your round is spent on the putting green. And 90% of the time, how many people hit balls for 30 minutes and walk over and hit 2 putts or don't even putt before they get on the green?
Yeah.
When they go out to play a golf round. That's what I do first. That's to me, getting that rhythm, getting that understanding and putting. I think part of it is just people don't enjoy putting because they never get better. You know, they make a putt or two, maybe it's just pure luck that the ball goes in the hole.
Yeah.
And there's no fun when it's coming to that. I enjoy getting on the green now. I feel like I've got a math equation I'm going to figure out, because I think you and I have boiled it down. It's just math, right?
It's all math.
The putts are math.
The science is there.
And it's just math.
The science is there.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And it's there. There's no doubt.
But I think you're going to see a revolution in putting and an evolution in terms of teaching of putting, because now coaches like you are going to actually have students that actually get better and have tangible improvements when they go out to the golf course. And because you're teaching the right thing, you're actually teaching a technique that works. Yeah. And it's good, repeatable. And I think, I think realistically, you can see someone make a major change and be able to take it to the golf course. I think 2 weeks. In my mind, it's 2 weeks.
Well, yeah.
You'll see an immediate
golf
change.
course in 2 weeks, but you'll
see it in 5 minutes on the golf course.
Yeah, you will start using the Grail, and you will start rolling the putts in on either your practice mat or your whatever putting green you use. You will see that immediately, and then as soon as you get out of the Grail, you're like, God, it's changed.
You go back a little bit, and then you keep getting in there. But when we talk to pros about it, and they're going to try to start doing this, I say 2 weeks, because they're playing every day, they're practicing every day. If you do that for 2 weeks, it's going to become part of what you're going to do.
It's going to become more natural than you'd ever imagine. Quickly.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think? You ready to get beat?
Are you ready to get beat?
Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, we've enjoyed it, and our first of hopefully many podcasts where we can share some of our stuff, and we'll look forward to seeing you again.